Hello, hello, and welcome to the Wealth Shepherd. I'm Ed Guanill with Guanill Wealth Management. We've got a great show for you today. Some really important topics that we're going to talk about. And of course, sometimes these topics will generate some questions in your minds. If you have any questions about any of the information that you're going to hear about today, you can always give us a call at 916 359 2750. Again, that's 916 359 2750. Or you can visit the website, edgwealth.com, as in my name, Ed Guanill, edgwealth.com. And while you're on the site, be sure to click on the radio page to check out past shows and to subscribe to our program on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon Music. And take a look at our YouTube channel as well. So, one of the main topics that I get a lot of questions about when I'm planning with our clients, there's a strategy that's been generating a lot of conversation in the retirement planning world lately, and it's called the Roth conversion. And I'm sure many of you out there listening have heard this term. Not really sure maybe how or when you should be thinking about completing a Roth conversion, but this could be a really, really powerful tool in retirement, not only for yourself, but if you are a legacy planner, meaning you want to leave some of your estate to your kids or your grandkids. It can also help them eliminate a lot of the taxation that comes with transferring assets to our loved ones. And so this isn't a strategy that's right for everyone. So we want to take a look at this today, talk about what a Roth conversion actually is, who would benefit from it, and just as importantly, who may not benefit from a Roth conversion. So as always, we have our wonderful co-host Jacqueline with us today. How are you, Jacqueline?
Ed, it is so great to be here. It's so great to see you. And please tell me where you are today.
Today we are in San Diego, and I am recording this today from our yacht club down here, Silvergate Yacht Club in San Diego. This is where I do some of my work when I'm down here, and I have another office down the road. But I mean, look at this view. I mean, wouldn't you want
Yeah.
to work from here every day if you could?
Yeah. Can you please invite me so we can do a live recording down there?
100%. And in fact, you may hear some of the kids today. We have our junior sailors downstairs getting ready to go out for their sailing lessons, and
Wow.
you may hear a couple of whistles here and there when they're out there sailing with their coaches, helping them to learn to sail. And so they were downstairs just a bit ago doing some classes, doing some classwork, and so. It's really cool to see the kids out there. It's their summer break right now, and they're just
Yeah.
having a lot of fun.
Wow. And what's your interest in sailing? Have you done that as a kid or how
Well,
did you
no,
start that?
Well, I grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area, so we were around the water a lot. And
Yeah.
but I've never been a sailor. I have to be honest with you. I'm a power boater. I like to
Okay.
have I like to have a motor, and so but the sailing community is really really huge down here in San Diego.
Mhm.
I mean, it's great sailing weather. There's races out in the bay all the time. It's just really fun to watch it. Now, I've gone sailing a couple times, but it's a lot of work, and I think I just like to sit behind the wheel, make sure that the motors are on, and
Yes.
kind of just take the cruise.
Yeah, you like to be captain, not sailor.
That's right.
Oh, well, I love it. I'm so incredibly jealous. So, for our listeners out there that are not watching this on YouTube, I do highly recommend heading to the YouTube channel to check out the video so you can see the beautiful view and also be with me when I say that I'm jealous of Ed
Yeah.
right now.
Well, I'm very fortunate. It's great to be down here.
Yes. Well, Ed, let's get into our conversation today because this is one that I hear about often. There's
Yes.
questions surrounding what a Roth conversion is and what it could mean for you. So why don't we start with kind of the basics there? What is a
Yeah.
Roth conversion and what are the primary appeals of it?
Sure. Sure. So, the conversation we're going to have today is based on a recent Kiplinger article. It's called "Should You Jump on the Roth Conversion Bandwagon?" And it walks through a lot of key ideas. So, let's start with what is a Roth conversion. This is a strategy that can help people eliminate or reduce taxes later in retirement. So, as you're going through your working career, you're funding your traditional retirement accounts, you're doing that in a tax deferred environment, meaning you're not paying taxes on the money that you're contributing to those programs. And so later, when you retire, and you start to pull money out of those accounts, then that's when it's going to be taxable. So the idea behind a Roth conversion is to convert that tax deferred money sooner than later, so that when it's time to pull money from these accounts, they will be tax free. So the benefit of a Roth IRA compared to a traditional IRA is, one, it grows tax deferred. Number two, you can pull it out tax free. And number three, we'll get into this a little bit more detail. There are no required minimum distributions from a Roth IRA. So that's one of the main benefits of having a Roth IRA in your retirement plan.
Yeah. So it sounds like what you're saying is you're kind of trading the tax bill now for no or possibility of no tax bill later. And also, to remove that need to take the RMDs or to take money out when Uncle Sam comes knocking on your door.
Yeah, so let's talk about that for a minute. So, with your traditional retirement accounts, your 401ks or your traditional IRAs, as I mentioned, we're putting that money in tax deferred. We're not paying taxes on the money that's going in there. There comes a point where the IRS says, "Hey, wait a second, don't forget about us. You've been, saving that money. We haven't been taxing you on the growth. It's growing tax deferred, but now you've reached a certain age. 73 is the key number right now. When you turn 73, the IRS forces you to take a required minimum distribution so that they can start to tax those retirement accounts that haven't been taxed yet." And so there's a lot of opportunity. And I think one aspect of retirement planning that a lot of people might fail at is they think they can't do anything until they retire, instead of realizing, hey, while I'm still working is the best time potentially to really look at how I should be converting this money. And then, of course, there's, a window when you do step out of the workforce. If your income goes down a little bit because now you're not working, you're not earning that paycheck, that also creates a good opportunity to start those conversions.
Okay. So yeah, so you bring up maybe that period between working and I guess retirement or taking out your contributions. And so what other maybe factors would you look at to a client or somebody to say maybe a Roth conversion could be an option for you?
Sure. There's a few things. One of the things that we really like to do is I call it tax first planning. And the first thing that we do whenever we meet with a new client is we sit down and we do what's called a total tax analysis. That's the first step in this whole process. And what we're looking at is how much in taxes will you pay over your lifetime if you do nothing? If you just continue to, fund that IRA or fund that 401k, and then you just take your withdrawals as needed. What's the tax implication there? And so with that total tax analysis, that's the first step in the process to see sort of what are you facing? What tax hurdles are you facing? From there, we can start to look at where the opportunities are. And those opportunities come at different times of your life. And one of the, I think, important thoughts that people may not realize is that, tax planning is not a one time a year event. It's not just something you do on April 15th every year when you do your taxes. It's an ongoing process because tax laws change, things happen in your retirement lifespan that change. And so there are going to be variables that we can't control. So you have to continue to do that tax planning each year. So let's say that someone's retired, they're temporarily in a lower income period, or maybe you've just retired and haven't started your Social Security yet. That might be a good opportunity in that year to start to do some Roth conversions, understanding that when you convert a traditional IRA or 401k, you're adding to your taxable income for that year. And so some of the other things we have to be cautious of is how it impacts Social Security taxes and how it impacts your Medicare taxes.
Oof. So it does kind of sound like it can have a ripple effect. And I want to go deeper into how it affects Medicare and Social Security. Can we kind
Sure.
of explain that? Because I know it's not maybe an, now thing. It could be years down the road here.
It really could. And, the way Social Security works is, in FDR, created the Social Security system. And what he said was, you'll never pay taxes on your Social Security as long as I'm alive. And well, guess what, Jacqueline? He died. So
Mm-hmm.
in 1983, they created these income tiers. And if your income reached a certain tier, then your Social Security would be taxable. And then in 1993, they created another tier so that more of your Social Security was taxable. And the reality is that they haven't really adjusted those income tiers for inflation. So it's very easy for retirees to move
Yeah.
into those income tiers when they start to withdraw money from their IRAs, which then creates the taxation of the Social Security. Then the second part to that is the Medicare premiums. As your income goes up, when it goes into certain levels, it pushes you into a IRMAA bracket. Okay. So what that means is they penalize you and they increase your Medicare premiums based on income. Okay. So you mentioned the ripple effect. It's that can really happen if you're not careful and if you don't do your conversions strategically.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I want to say, Social Security or Medicare, one of them looks at 2 years in advance, right? Which one
That,
is that?
that's correct. So Medicare is going to, so for example, the income that you make in 2026 is going to impact your Medicare premiums in 2028. Okay,
Wow.
so Medicare has a 2-year look back to determine how much they're going to charge you for Medicare. So
Yeah.
strategically doing those Roth conversions to try to keep you under those IRMAA brackets is important. And I'll tell you a short story. Back in 2010, the IRS changed some of the rules. This was right after the financial crisis happened.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did was they removed all of the limitations for people to do a Roth conversion. There used to be income boundaries and all these other things. And when they did that, a lot of people just started to arbitrarily do Roth conversions. And what happened was what we just talked about. Not only did it push them into higher tax brackets, they were also paying more taxes on Social Security, and they got forced
Ooh.
into that IRMAA bracket. And once you hit that IRMAA bracket, you're there for 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So not having a strategic plan can really cause that ripple effect of not just paying more taxes on income, but now you're paying taxes on all these other things.
Yeah, and it truly seems like to me, Ed, that there's a very small margin of time here to make a Roth conversion, kind of have the benefit that we're hoping for. Because
Yeah.
you briefly talked about how do it after you're kind of exited the workforce, right? So then you're not making that income. But now we're talking 2 years prior to Medicare. So it seems like the timing of this is very like small. It seems like that's kind of the most important factor.
Yeah, it really is. The timing of it, the strategy behind those
Yeah.
conversions, all of those things come into play. And I think one of the most important questions is, what does your tax situation look like right now
Mm,
compared to what you expect it to look like in the future? Because the whole premise of a Roth conversion is that you're paying taxes now to avoid the higher taxes later. And tax brackets are sometimes a moving target, right? So in
mhm.
2017, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act lowered tax brackets, and we knew that those tax brackets were going to stay in place till 2026. That gave us a 9-year opportunity to really start to look at some strategies for our clients. Okay. Now, since then, Congress has extended that to 2030. So it gave us another 4 years of planning opportunity because we know where the tax brackets are going to be for the next few years. After that, there's some variables. Congress could let the tax rate sunset and go back to the 2017 rates. They can extend it again. We're not sure. So, what we
Mhm.
have to do is plan based on what we know today.
Mhm. Yeah, and I like to say, you know, taxes are kind of on sale right now, is what
That's right.
and so you never know, but now is the best time. And we always, again, you say, oh, yesterday, last week, whatever. You can't look in the past, but starting now, starting
That's right.
today, looking at what your factors you're given. And when we're talking about taxes and kind of where the money or how you should be paying these funds, these tax
Sure.
bills, where should that come from?
So, different sources. For some clients, it makes sense to just withhold the taxes from the conversion. But
Okay.
for other clients, if you use money from a retirement account to cover the tax bill, you're reducing the amount that ends up in the Roth. So you want to be careful there. That shrinks the long-term benefit of the entire strategy. And
Mm-hmm.
then the math really starts to work against you. So before someone moves forward with a conversion, they really need to look at, where can we pay for this tax bill for the year that we do the conversion. And so if you have other funds that are not going to be taxed, those are good resources to cover that tax bill so that you get the full benefit of that conversion. Every dollar that you convert, you want to make sure it's working for you. And I think we've talked about this before on other shows where uh, you're going to incur one of two costs. You're either going to incur the employment cost of putting your money to work for you, or the opportunity cost of not putting your work to money for you. So you have to make sure that those things are all working together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And I think, are we talking about maybe savings accounts, or what other examples would be maybe useful to
Sure,
use?
sure. Savings accounts, great. Other non-qualified investment accounts, and one of the things that we look at in this strategy is what we call is bracket bumping. And what
Mm.
bracket bumping is, let's say that I'm in a 20% tax bracket. You the conversion strategy is going to look at the top end of that bracket, and you're going to convert as much as you can to keep you within that bracket and not go into the next bracket. The way you pay the taxes on those conversions sometimes won't matter from the standpoint of whether you're going to withhold the taxes from the conversion amount from the traditional IRA, or if you have other funds to pay the taxes outright. A lot of times, what we're able to do is find other tax deductions for our clients so they don't have to come out of pocket for those taxes.
Mhm. Yeah, the importance of preparing here, it sounds like, rather than reacting or, working now, it's best to prepare for this. And I do want to touch maybe back on to the timing question with this.
Sure.
I think many successful conversions really are based on time. Can you kind of explain why that is?
Yeah. So the more time you have to do those conversions, the better planning you could do. The
Mhm.
strategic, approach is to pay as little in taxes as possible.
Mhm.
And, I mentioned in 2010, people were arbitrarily converting their traditional IRAs, and they were getting these big tax bills and having to pay more on Social Security and then moving into the IRMAA bracket. So, time is on your side when you start to plan it. And remember, a lot of company sponsored 401k plans now offer a Roth 401k.
Yeah.
So it's possible to do conversions while you're actually working. But whether a conversion actually saves you money in the long run depends on your future tax rates, your spending needs, how long those assets stay invested and have time to grow. And there's really a whole range of factors that are really different for every household. And so, I always tell people Roth conversions are not a DIY project. Make sure you're working
Mhm.
with a qualified retirement planner, somebody who understands the tax codes. And, we do that with our partnership with our tax planning company, which is California Coast Tax Pros. We actually, you know, years ago when I would put plans together for people and I'd say, "Hey Jacqueline, I've got this plan for you. Let's call your tax person and make sure that everything is lined up correctly and we're not putting you into a higher tax bracket." You know,
Uh-oh.
we found that a lot of tax people didn't want to be in the advising business. So we created
Yeah.
a company, California Coast Tax Pros. We have uh, EAs, tax preparers, CPAs that we work with to make sure that we're dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's to make sure our clients are protected from paying any unnecessary taxes.
Yes. Well, thank you for bringing that up, Ed, because that's such an important role. Having a certified and professional tax preparer for you that works together with your financial advisor, because then they can do the heavy lifting on their own, so you don't have to as a client, and you don't have to connect the two dots and make sure that everyone, and be the bridge in between. it's
That's
it's
right.
fantastic to hear that you guys bridge it together, so your client doesn't have to be in the middle.
That's right.
And
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, no. I just wanted to touch on, you brought up family.
Yeah.
And this has been ultimately a lot of single conversations, about a single person. But
Sure.
how about married couples? Does it change? Is it different?
Yeah, it does because you have to take into account, both spouses' incomes, right? So there's really a lot other things to consider. Married couples sometimes get drawn to the idea of leaving their assets to their kids. They want to leave it tax free, and that's absolutely possible. But they don't always think through the annual cash flow that's required to support the
Mhm.
ongoing conversions, especially if they're in living on a fixed income. So if they're converting a lot every year, you're also generating the tax bill for that year. And without
Mhm.
liquid assets and a clear plan for the ongoing cash flow, even a well intentioned strategy can put a real strain on
Mhm.
household finances. But the strategy has to fit your overall financial picture, not just look good in theory.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, I truly think that the overall theme of a Roth conversion, or what we've really talked about today, is the importance of working with a financial professional and a team of professionals. And
Yeah,
I know that have shared the importance of your team and what you guys have at the office, and how you guys work together alongside a client so they're not forced to be in the middle of connecting the two conversations. Um, can you kind of explain maybe the importance that you see of working with a financial advisor?
sure. So, it's one of those things that it's like having a tour guide, right? You could try
Mhm.
and plan the vacation as best as possible and try to find all the fun spots to go to and be your own tour guide, but you might miss some things. And
Mhm.
so when you're working with a financial professional, financial advisor, tax, I think you have to have a team. I think you should have
Yes.
a tax team and you should have your financial advising team. You're not going to miss some of the key points that could be potentially road bumps in the way of retirement. We can help avoid those pitfalls with our experience, our knowledge of the markets, our knowledge of the tax code. And
Mhm.
I think that's really where one of the things that we really try to do for our clients is bring them value, right? People
Mhm.
really need value in their retirement plannings. And the value I think that we bring to the table is we marry the tax and the financial piece together. And
Yes.
that is so key. And that's why, I talk about it in a way of tax first planning, because I think
Mm.
if you know, your investment strategy is only as good as the tax strategy that supports it.
Yeah, the foundation. The
That's
foundational
right.
piece is the taxes, and the pillars that put up the house, or the walls are, the financial planning, and the roof. And I love the analogy. I think we should continue this next week with this analogy. But Ed, why don't you share with our listeners before we leave today how they can get a hold of you for a complimentary consultation to talk about this financial side of things?
Absolutely. If you have any questions, if you've been listening to the show and something strikes some interest in you, you can always reach out. Just give me a call, 916-359-2750. Again, that's 916-359-2750. You can send me an email directly as well. My email address is ed@edgwealth.com. And we'll be happy to answer any questions you have. There's no cost for getting information.
Yes, yes, and there's no better place and time to start than now.
That's right.
So, thank you, Ed, and enjoy the sunshine behind you and the beautiful view. Enjoy it for me and the listeners and viewers today, and tell us all about it next time.
You got it. I have the best office view in the world today, so I
Yes.
will enjoy it.
Well, that does it for this episode of The Wealth Shepherd with our host, Ed Guanill.
Good to see you, Jacqueline. We'll see you next week.